I'm Afshin Ratansi, and welcome back to a brand new season of Going Underground, broadcasting all around the world from the heart of the Middle East. Today, in 1961, the world woke up to news of US President General Eisenhower revealing the dangers of a military-industrial complex, not democracy, controlling the United States. Today, in 2025, fireworks are scheduled to light up the sky at Donald Trump's golf club in Virginia ahead of a cabinet dinner and the inauguration of the 47th president on Monday. Many of those cabinet picks are on the record for promoting war on Russia through Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza, wars in Latin and Central America, and wars on Iran and China. This despite Trump himself declaring that his desire is world peace. Joining me again from Cleveland, Ohio, is Dennis Kucinich, the former mayor of Cleveland, who twice ran as a U.S. Democratic presidential candidate, most recently running as an independent candidate for Congress. Dennis, thanks so much for coming back on. Happy New Year. You're on the season premiere of Going Underground. You were at the Washington Press Club just a few weeks ago, before Christmas,
right?
Speaking about the risk of nuclear war. How important is it for Trump to immediately rescind Biden's permission to fire U.S. missiles at Russia, let alone other elements of the Biden policy that have made us all closer to death?
Right. First of all, it's great to be with you, and your audience is very important for being able to analyze what's going on in the world, and I think by reference has an impact. So I'm glad to be with you. Let's start with this. It's very clear that we need a new security, world security architecture. Just very clear, and that would reflect the interest of each party. Not just a unipolar approach. And the big thing in the U.S. is we have to shift from the Cold War perspective, which has locked us into the apprehension of nuclear conflict, which sometimes can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially if, as in the Biden administration, they're lobbing long-range missiles towards Moscow. That never made any sense. And it carried with it the possibility of a nuclear war, which myself, Scott Ritter, and others were very pointed about sharing that perspective with the American people. So there's a new opportunity here, notwithstanding whatever Trump's appointees have said or have been.
I'll get on to them, Dennis, in a bit. I'll get on to those appointees in a minute.
Yeah, so President Trump is not somebody who wants more war. He's a deal maker. And as such, he's always interested in trying to find a way to come to a deal. And of course, if you have a nuclear war, there is no deal. It's the end of dealing. So I think that we're looking at a potential here for a new relationship with Russia in particular that's going to be built on mutual respect, of course, and that will give the people of the world an opportunity to see two leaders, both of whom have a great deal of experience, find a path towards peaceful coexistence and maybe even a path towards working together. Because after all, in the past, the U.S. and Russia found a way with the START Treaty, the Intermediate Nuclear Force Treaty, and others, to come to agreements with America. So I think that we should be and can be optimistic, if not cautiously so, that there'll be an opportunity for an opening here with new relations with Russia. And I'd like to get into some of the details as we go through this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get back to the future, as it were, in a second. You definitely do believe, though, that the Biden, Blinken, Austin, Sullivan, Harris policies brought us closer to nuclear war and the end of the world? I mean, just on that legacy?
It's been reckless, and it has been escalatory at a time when we must de-escalate, at a time when we need to advocate for a multipolar world, not a unipolar world. And so that whole approach has been anachronistic even. It's not mindful of the fact that the world has changed from what it was in 1950. And yet those who were advocating for escalation with Russia, for further aggression, didn't seem to have the capacity to be able to engage. And we need constructive engagement. That's something that the Biden-Blinken leadership on foreign policy didn't seem to be capable of. So, we need to look for new partnerships here with Russia.
But what have you made
get
then?
away from.
What have you made of this week's? It's quite tight-lipped. It's people used to call it Kremlinology when we were trying to work out what the Soviet Union was doing. What did you make of Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing? That's the nominee for the boss of the Pentagon, the new boss of the CIA, putative John Ratcliffe. It's very difficult for the public watching on YouTube or whatever their confirmation hearings as to what precisely they're doing. Do they look as frightened as we should expect that it is executive power here? I mean, Marco Rubio, given his past record, it was amazing to even hear him talk about negotiation and the idea of a kind of multilateralism you're hinting at there.
Make no mistake about it, unlike the last term where President Trump relied upon his top advisors on matters of international policy and security and intelligence. He's brought this much closer to himself now. He's making the decisions on war and peace. He's making the decisions on America's position in the world and on America's ability to deal with other countries. He ceded some of that to people like Mike Pompeo the last time. That's not happening this time. You're looking at a different type of President Trump, one who is more informed of the ways of Washington, which can be circuitous in a snake pit sort of way, and one who is not going to be misled by advisors who may have their own agenda. People are working for Donald Trump in this term. Whoever he's appointed will be reflecting his point of view. This is not a presidency that is going to be unhinged. It's a presidency that's going, I think, that will be focused on trying to come up with a means of establishing détente or entente with certain nations, but he'll be focused on America's economic success. And there's America's economic success is adverse to the interests of the military-industrial complex, because the more money we spend for war, the less able we are to meet the needs of the American people. And so President Trump knows that, and he's appointing people who will follow his direction. I don't have any doubt about that. There's not going to be many people out there who are going to be freelancing in the Trump administration.
Well, we had Sebastian Gorka on. He was nominated by Trump to become deputy assistant to the president and senior director on counterterror. I don't know whether, because you were running RFK Jr.'s campaign before he dropped out, whether you've got a call to go to Mar-a-Lago ahead of the inauguration day. But is it your sense then that even if Trump is taking more executive control and not leaving it to alleged war criminals like Mike Pompeo, he's set up a huge battle line here? If you think of Rubio, Waltz, Radcliffe on one side, just the confirmation hearings at least show that they want mass surveillance and so on, the new head of the CIA, versus Elon Musk, RFK Jr., your friend, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, who saw through all the Russiagate hoaxes. I mean, is that the kind of Trump technocratic CEO way of having a divide and rule situation? Because it seems pretty dangerous to a lot of people to allow people in positions of that kind of power to battle it out. Rubio is going to be the Secretary of State. Ratcliffe is going to be their boss of the CIA.
Well, your observation about the diversity within the Trump cabinet choices is well taken. However, I'll say it again. President Trump's going to be running this show. And if he wasn't, then you could say, well, these forces are going to be at loggerheads and you'll end up with stasis, inertia, and government breakdown. I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening because a strong leader can set a tone, which can cause others, notwithstanding what their predilections might be, can cause others to fall in line. And the one thing about Trump, he is a strong leader, and he's not a pushover. He's not somebody who is going to be easily misled by any of his staffers. He is, as such, he'll cause a kind of consensus to arise that will hopefully create an administration that will find a way to work together for the benefit of the country.
Yeah, because I mean, do you think there was a sense that the sudden, I mean, we don't know the state of it, peace deal in Gaza was an indication of that? Because you wouldn't expect the likes of Rubio, Mike Waltz, Sebastian Gorka, these people to have forced Netanyahu's hand and say, look, we don't want genocide for the inauguration. I mean, if anything, it obviously proved that Blinken and Biden and Sullivan were useless, as so many tens of thousands of mostly women and children were slaughtered. But is that an early indication, the fact that we saw this peace deal ahead of Inauguration Day, that he wants peace, in effect?
He does want peace, and he sent an envoy in to meet with Netanyahu and company, and made it very clear, based on reports that are public and some that I've heard privately, and made it very clear that there had to be an agreement to end the war against the people of Gaza. And he's looking at an architecture for peace in the Middle East. And again, Trump is someone who is taking a view of trying to put the pieces together to come to an agreement. As far as Gaza, as of the time that we're talking, there's still conflict within the Netanyahu government over whether there should be any cessation of the war. And that will be a moment where Netanyahu's ability to survive is going to be tested. Because on one hand, he absolutely needs the help of the United States to stay in government. And on the other hand, he needs the votes of the far right coalition that he put together to stay in office. So being betwixt and between creates a situation where the war is going to keep going for a while until they find a path to settle it. And before the Ben-Gvirs and Smotriches of the Netanyahu government realize that notwithstanding their sincere desire to cleanse the land of everyone who happens to be a Palestinian, that's not going to happen. And that the truth is that their approach of ethnic cleansing, of genocide, has failed. That this idea of greater Israel that comes about as a result of murdering people, that's not going to happen anymore. They're going to have to take a new direction. Now, Donald Trump is a very strong supporter of Israel. And I support Israel up to the point of, ethnic cleansing and genocide, count me out. But what we're looking at here is an opportunity for Israel to get out of the rut and to come to an agreement which helps Israel survive. Because right now, Israel's own existence is threatened by leadership, which is going down the path of destruction, which could consume the state of Israel itself.
Dennis Kucinich, I'll stop you there. More from the twice U.S. Democrat presidential contender and former mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, after this break. Welcome back to Going Underground. I'm still here with the twice U.S. Democrat presidential contender and former mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, Dennis Kucinich. Dennis, you were talking about the dangers to Israel of this 15 months of slaughter in Gaza. I mean, in one sense, though, is the Israeli project not fatally harmed? I mean, all around the world, the word Israel is now synonymous with genocide. How can they recover in any way, unless Trump gives them that way to recover their reputation, arguably?
Well, it's very sad to look at the trajectory of the historical relationship between the Israeli government and the people of Palestine, or the Palestinians, the Gazans, and the people in the West Bank, because it's really been a history fraught with oppression and occupation, and these are not just buzzwords. Because I take an approach where I want what's best for everyone, and frankly, Israel, the government of Israel, has taken an approach which has been destructive in a way that it certainly caught the attention of the world. It has harmed Israel's reputation as a state in the world community. It's lost Israel a tremendous amount of goodwill without improving Israel's security one bit, or without achieving a return of hostages in any significant number. Netanyahu has played a hand where he's strengthened his hand within Israel and within his government, but he's weakened himself around the world. Now,
but it's not so much Netanyahu, though, is it? I mean, would you go so far as to say Antony Blinken has done Hamas's work for him? I mean, Blinken, for some reason, this week was saying there are more Hamas members than there were before October the 7th. But in a sense, was he not admitting the failures of U.S. policy itself in arming to the teeth?
If that is true, then it's a confession of abject failure. If there are more Hamas members. But, this isn't a game of whack-a-mole here. We're talking about the survival of the state of Israel and the survival of the people of Gaza and the West Bank. And the U.S. policy has not been conducive to either, frankly. And so Antony Blinken, God bless him, is gratefully at the end of his service to the United States of America, give him a gold watch and send him out the door.
Many people won't say, I mean, he might be going back to his defense contractor job at West Exec. Do you think it'll be safe ever for Biden and his officials to travel anywhere in the world after Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern time, given that they are obviously in some ways complicit, some people say participating actively in a genocide, according to that world court? I know it's not respected by the US Congress, but around the world, do you think they'll ever be able to travel, these people? Jake Sullivan, Blinken, Kamala Harris, Biden?
That to me, that's less of a concern than establishing a new security architecture that respects the ability of all people to survive. And Donald Trump has a unique opportunity in that regard because he sees the shortcomings of the Biden administration. And he is in a position to capitalize on openings that he can create.
What about this problem? There were horrible terror atrocities over the Yuletide period in the U.S., in New Orleans, for instance, and there is going to be blowback, presumably, for these policies under the Biden years. I mean, whether it's supporting Nazis in Ukraine, ISIS in Syria, Al Qaeda in China, oligarchs in Latin America, things come back home. And of course, what happens to presidents is that they suddenly react and overreact badly and throw themselves off course in terms of foreign policy. What are the dangers to a Trump administration of that, for having to be seen to be tough when the inevitable blowback happens? There are so many weapons in the world they've sent to far-right groups in Ukraine, so many weapons they've sent to Al Qaeda and ISIS Daesh in Syria and so on.
Look, each new administration is inheriting something of administrations before them. That's a given. The danger always, when you're in a position of power, is overreaction, even in the face of a major attack. I'll give you an example. 9/11. The reaction was not just an overreaction, but it was focused on Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. It ended up costing the United States maybe $5 to $6 trillion. for a war that never had to be fought. I gave a speech on the floor of the House right after the attack saying, hey, hold on, wait a minute, don't rush into any kind of decision making. Let's reason and then let's go forward. I mean, we have to defend the United States, of course, but there was something else going on here, that another agenda. The President of the United States has an obligation to be able to take a measured approach in any kind of a conflict, whether it's domestic or international. And hopefully from all of the lessons he's learned, both in office and in the period and out of office where he was under relentless attack, President Trump will emerge from that crucible of personal experience to become the leader that America needs at this moment. Of course, it remains to be seen, but he certainly has an opportunity. And we need to look at de-escalation, engagement, an opportunity to create a new security architecture, respect other people's concerns, and to try to find a way to get to prosperity. Because in America, be very sure about this, people were tired of these endless wars. It's why one of the reasons why they voted for Donald Trump. They wanted America to focus on the economy here at home. They wanted to do something and stop this flood of illegal immigrants coming in, because that's an economic issue as well. Americans are really more focused on what's happening here. The housing situation is a nightmare in America today. People are having trouble either renting or staying in their homes because of the cost. So, we've talked a lot about foreign policy, but I'll tell you that the success of President Trump is going to depend on him being very dexterous in handling the international matters so he can focus on the domestic economy. If he's able to do that, he'll be a successful president. He has a chance actually to be a great president. But, there's, as you pointed out, presidents inherit all kinds of policies, and sometimes the response to the United States happens during another administration. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see a mixture of engagement and restraint, and towards establishing peace negotiations for Ukraine, looking at reining in NATO's expansionist policies, which have been devastating for the world, doing something about reviving discussions over nuclear disarmament, for example. That would be a huge development, so that we no longer have this nuclear sort of Damocles hanging over the world. There's a lot of progress to be made, and I'm optimistic. Of course, no president is ever going to be spared criticism for his decisions, but I think that Donald Trump, having had an ocean of criticism, both publicly and privately, is probably better poised than most to be able to make decisions without regard to public pressure, and to basically try to do what's right.
And you believe he has cabinet members that will question any fake evidence brought to him? Because you mentioned Iraq, of course, that was fake intelligence information. I mean, John Ratcliffe worked with John Ashcroft. As I said, Marco Rubio is there. I don't know what you know of this National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. All it takes is one piece of evidence to get him into a war with China or Iran, isn't it? And that will throw him off course from the domestic agenda of your failing infrastructure.
Any kind of a war would wreck President Trump's domestic agenda. Just wreck it. And that doesn't mean that he's going to permit the United States to be vulnerable at all. What it means is that he has great latitude right now at this point. The question is, how's he going to use it? And I'm quite confident in watching him closely over the last few years that he is not going to let any of his appointees just go off on their own and do whatever they want on behalf of God knows whatever interests. They're going to have to follow Donald Trump's lead, and if they don't, they'll be out. That's pretty clear.
And just finally, is he going to bring to justice all those people that have been lying about his first term? The Russia hoax, Steele dossier. I don't know whether he's going to get that MI6 agent Christopher Steele done. the people responsible for fake Syrian chemical attack stories. All those people, I mean, do they not pose a problem for the future? The people that lied about him being a Russian agent and so on. They're all there. They all have jobs. They're all in the firmament. Some of them working at legal practices. How are you going to get rid of these people that will no doubt be all over the news media that detests Trump?
I think what we have to do is get rid of the mindset of fear and suspicion first. That's a bigger job. And the individuals who have been purveyors of that fear and suspicion, with a president who is not fearful, it'll make a difference. Those who were promoting Russiagate and other conspiracy theories, which proved to be false, their punishment is that Donald Trump got elected anyhow. Reelected anyhow, and I don't think that it would serve the Trump administration well to use the power of their office to essentially try to purge everyone who ever lied about Donald Trump or his policies. I don't, there's a line that I always remember in a poem by Shelley called Prometheus Unbound. And it talks about to forgive wrongs darker than night. When we carry with us this idea of being wronged and we got to pay back people, that's a burden. That weighs heavy on someone's heart and soul. And so to free yourself of it and basically say, okay, I know it happened, but I'm going to move forward. And in some cases, even I forgive you. But really, the real test of power is to be able to meet all of those attempts to undermine you and attack you and degrade you, to meet it all and not go down in bitterness, but to rise up and to find a means of serving the public who elected you.
Dennis Kucinich, thank you. And that's it for the show. We'll be back on Monday with Doug Bandow, the former special assistant to President Ronald Reagan. Until then, keep in touch via all our social media if it's not censored in your country, and head to our channel, Going Underground TV, on rumble.com to watch new and old episodes of Going Underground. See you Monday.